You may be seated. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. I am Pam Scherstedt. I am a member of the Grace Gospel Fellowship Council. I teach here at Grace Christian University communication, no judging. We heard about that this morning. But I'm also a very active member of Celebration Bible Church right here in Granville. Woo, woo. On behalf of the Grace Gospel Fellowship, we welcome you, welcome you, welcome you. We are so glad that you are here at this Refresh Conference. I sincerely believe you are here for a reason. And I pray that our hearts and our minds will be open to the leading of the Lord as He works through us with special speakers and special events throughout this conference. Again, we are very glad that you're here today. A little bit of housekeeping. As part of the Refresh Conference, there are some elements to be refreshing for you. And that includes special activities on Wednesday afternoon. There are 3 planned activities that have no cost involved, but you don't have to do those 3 activities. You could also choose to do something else on your own, whatever works out best for you. But these are the 3. You can take advantage of a Frederick Meyer Garden tour on Wednesday afternoon. Beautiful if you've not had a chance to visit Frederick Meyer Gardens. Also, there's going to be disc golf right here on the beautiful campus of Grace Christian University. That's another option. And the third option is pickleball at a nearby park or right here in the Aldrich Athletic Center. So those are your 3 options. If you have not signed up for an option yet, please do so, and you can do that by connecting with Bryan or Amy Walker. They can get you situated with one of those options. And the sooner you sign up, the better, because that helps with the planning. All right, the good stuff. This session, we are going to hear from Grace Gospel Fellowship leaders and celebrate what is happening with the Grace Gospel Fellowship. And we're looking towards the future and how God is leading the Grace Gospel Fellowship. I would like to welcome up Grace Gospel Fellowship President, Dr. Bryan Walker. I'm going to pray with him and for this session, and then he'll take it over. Bryan, thank you for being here. Please join me in prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this opportunity to be together, to learn together, to be encouraged together. Lord, thank you for Dr. Bryan. Thank you for Pastor John Louder, who will be sharing how God is working through Grace Gospel Fellowship, how God is working around the world. Lord, I pray, too, our hearts would be open, that our minds would be open, that your Spirit would move, and that we would be encouraged, Lord, with what you are doing in the world. Thank you so much for how you have gifted the leaders of Grace Gospel Fellowship. And I pray, Lord, that you'll be with us. And all God's people said, Amen.
Good morning. So, I was trying to put together words as I get ready for this week, this conference. What am I thinking? And the words keep coming up as confidently excited. How's that? And so I suppose it's probably a development or developing kind of evolution of exciting and confidence. And this is what I mean by those 2 words. I'm confident because I'm seeing what God has done. And I'm excited because I see what God's doing across our fellowship. My hope is that this next 90 minutes, buckle up, we're going to do a bunch in the next 90 minutes. before I'm going to just get this out of my hand, there are some books that are available to you and that you've already received. And some of the books, there's a table out here that have some books that are part of our conference, a couple books by Pastor Cal Bedoich, some books that are available to you, and those are available to you at that back counter. You also know, I believe, that Grace Publication is on this campus. I don't know where Tim McGarvey is this week. I don't know if he's available, but there is also a library of books available to you. There are also books that you received in your gift bags as truly gifts to you. And we believe, for the pastors, that this book, The Cure, is going to help navigate one of our sessions later this afternoon. Oh, by the way, the program is wrong, I believe, John. We're actually not meeting in the dining room anymore. We're meeting in this room, right? So your program says that the afternoon session is in the dining room or the north dining room. We're moving it back to here. So if you show up in the dining room, you're going to have probably a very good seating option in there. And then also for the ladies, you receive this gift as really you're going to learn more about this ministry, that it's growing. But as a gift through the Julie Farben Memorial, this is yours to be part of as well. And so you're going to learn more about that. I can put these down now. Put them over there. I want to maybe spend some time. There's always this risk, and you know this. You know this. As soon as you start thanking people, you miss people. So I'm going to, at the risk of missing people, I want to maybe even before that, a little housekeeping items for you. We are recording these sessions, so we will hopefully, we've promised this. This is the problem with promises and commitments, is we have to fulfill them. And we have unfulfilled commitments still hanging out there. And we told you before we are always going to be putting these sessions online, and sometimes we haven't. We lost one particular hard drive one time that had some sessions. So sometimes we have to cooperate with technology, and sometimes we don't. Our goal is to have these sessions recorded so you can watch them again, or you can demonstrate them to your congregation. We'll have those. I haven't actually verified this with John Lauder. I believe we'll have slides as much as possible. I know with like Dr. Matt and Dr. Phil and the guys, maybe we'll try to have slides for you. That's not a promise. That's a try, and you know what that means. Probably won't happen. But we'll try. How's that? And I want to thank a handful of people. This morning you saw a few people. I just want to introduce them to you. You had Christopher Moore, recently completed successfully his licensing experience. And so he's Pastor Christopher Moore. So yeah. And Pastor Christopher serves alongside Pastor David Simmer up at Grace Bible Church in Newaygo. And then you had Kaylee Johnson. And Kaylee Johnson, Pastor Joe and Kaylee Johnson are the lead pastor and team at Parkside Bible Church. And Kaylee also serves on our national council. And so Kaylee's got a lot of plate spinning. And so that Kaylee leads in that space. And then over here is Alejandro Gonzalez. Alejandro serves, he completed his licensing journey, ordination journey. Oh, Alejandro, I should have asked that. I'm sorry. You are Pastor Alejandro. How's that? Yeah. Licensing? Okay. And so Alejandro, yeah. yeah. Last year, Pastor Alejandro completed that, and he served alongside Pastor Caleb Beefus over at Grace Bible Church, or Grace Bible Fellowship in Jenison. And then you have Philip, who you haven't seen. He's kind of moving things behind the scene, Philip Kirabira. And Philip recently graduated from Grace, I think maybe a year ago, recently got married, recently had a baby. There's a lot of things in the recent past of Philip, but Philip has been here. He's really leading a lot of our worship ministry this week. So as you see Philip, thank him because he's making things happen. Now there's a other process that I want to go through. These are maybe some more formal thank yous also. And again, this is where you run into troubles. The GCU team. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scene to get this campus ready. Minimally, thank you to Ken and to Bryan and the team who have done this work. There also has been benevolence on your part to things that aren't being charged, that normally the college would charge, aren't taking place to help us keep our costs down. And as a gift to you, really, quite frankly. And thank you for that. John and Amy and the Refresh planning team, this is a product of a lot of planning. You know that. But I want to thank Amy and John particularly. There's other folks in this room who have done that. I'm holding this mic in my hand because I have to remember to talk about it. So as soon as I put it on the ground, I'll forget it. So John and Amy and the team, thank you. My board, this board that actually thinks about you a lot. We spend a lot of time. We meet as an executive committee. Our executive committee meets every month because we are not all in town. We meet by Zoom often. We meet every month, and we meet as a full board every other month. We think about you a lot. We pray for you. We work on things for you. You're going to hear more about that. This board is really a lovely group of folks who I just care deeply for, and I have a sweet relationship with them. And then our leadership team, you're going to hear from them later, hence the mic. And Glenn and John and Scott, thank you guys. We meet every other week via Zoom because we are out of state, and we just spend a lot of time planning and working and strategizing for you because we love you and we care for you. And this is something that we get to do together, and it's something that I'm very blessed by. We meet as a team in GR twice a year so we can spend time thinking and strategizing together and encouraging each other. Because each of these men serve in a part-time capacity, oh, by the way, as they serve full-time in their church. And so they're carrying, but they're carrying because they care for you and they love you. And when we travel around the country, we get to do it. It's something special. Thank you, men. And then our session faculty and the day hosts, thank you. I'm grateful to you. Thank you for being part of this. You have been working. I know John has been working with you, getting your slides and your content. And John's going to talk quite a bit more about the rest of the flow of this. So that's the thank yous. I want to spend maybe just a moment and give you a sense of what we're going to spend some time on. This is what I'm calling embracing our past, encouraged by our present, and preparing for our future. We're going to do a little bit of reflection, a little bit of spending time momentarily, and a little time looking forward. This session is going to have a little different feel than the rest of the sessions because there is some accountability we have to you. You and your church ministries give faithfully to this fellowship. We are 100% dependent on your gifts. We have no generating of cash mechanism in place. We're dependent on your philanthropy, your gracious kindness through you and the people in your churches. We owe you some accountability because we know you advocate for the fellowship. We know you advocate for each other. And so we have been making promises through the year. My hope is that this next 90 minutes gives you kind of a confidence that the thing you care for is serving and thinking and working forward. So that's the name of this. I want to give you maybe a roadmap of what this looks like. The first segment of this session, we're going to just call it, We Heard You. We heard you. You know this because I see you frequently. We believe that there is importance to being present with you on more than one occasion. And I look across this crowd and you know I'm seeing you. I've been on the phone with you, and we've had email exchange, and then we have a time to sit in your office, and you tell me something you never told me before, because there's difference. You know this. You lead ministries like this. Being present. Pastor John Lauder calls it the ministry of presence, and actually we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We believe being present with you is important. We heard you. We're going to spend some time there. So, I think I might have skipped a slide there, Christina. Backward. There we go. This is a roadmap of what we're going to spend some time on. We're going to spend some moments on talking about Vision 2023, what we call GGF 2.0. And we're going to ask Pastor Troy Sergey to come up here. Pastor Troy recently completed his completion of his ordination ministry. Good job, Pastor Troy. There are other men in this room who have done the same thing in the last 2 days. So they're kind of relieving. They're enjoying. They're truly refreshing. So we're going to call Pastor Troy. I'm going to call Pastor Troy up here in a little bit. and just to share with you the journey that Pastor Troy's been on, to let you hear maybe as a direct recipient of some of the things we're going to be talking about in the next 10 minutes. And Pastor Troy, this is why I have the microphone in my hand. Okay, so those of you who are speaking is a microphone. Philip has given me this microphone. I'm going to not put it on this podium because you know there's a 97% probability I'm going to knock it off in the next 30 minutes. So I'm going to put this thing here on the ground. Just don't step on it. When you come up, as I call you up, this is your microphone. How's that? Now I can take that. It's sweaty. It's super sweaty. I can just tell you. But not me. So we're going to have Pastor Troy come up. And then we're going to kind of shift gears a moment. And we're going to talk about we're hearing you. We're embracing what we get to do right now. We're hearing you. And we're going to talk about what we're calling Strategy 2027. What are we looking at? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to talk about some project updates, some things that we said we were going to do. We're accountable to you. And you see the emails that we write, and maybe, I suppose, I don't know that. You get the emails that we write. How's that? You get the emails that we write. We're trying to keep you posted, but this is a moment for us to give you a real-time update. And then John's going to come up and finish this session with talking about really launching into the conference, really launching into the grace fluency, and giving you kind of setting the table for you for the next 3 days of sessions and learning and breakout sessions. So that is going to be John's effort, and then we're going to conclude, and then Pam will come up again and kind of guide us through the rest of the morning. So back next to this slide, the We Heard You slide. One more slide, Christina. So this graphic you saw before. Maybe you've seen it ad nauseum. Maybe you have. This graphic represents what we called GGF 2.0. Let me back out a little bit to tell you how we landed on this space. So everyone on this planet encountered a little thing in 2020, and it changed everything. It changed everything in the church. The pandemic changed everything. Depending on what state you were in, it changed it for a prolonged period of time. And so things changed dramatically in your church. You have been a firsthand witness to that. And so in addition to just embracing the ministry that we were entrusted with through our prior leaders, Frosty and Matt, we were entrusted with a ministry, but everything had changed. The playbook had changed. And so we needed to understand, what did that mean for you? So we learned and we listened. And we determined to break it into 3 really easily consumable spaces. We were singularly focused. We asked the question, what is it that only we should be able to do for you? We know you could go out in any particular portal, and we knew you could buy a lot of services out there, consulting services, fundraising, stewardship campaigns, all that stuff. You don't need us to do that, but we're willing to. We have experts at the college. We have experts. We're building that kind of expertise, but you don't need that. We said, what are the things that only we should be thinking about, that you could realize that we are praying about regularly? And we broke it into 3 basic columns, and we put it into this architectural structure: healthy pastors, healthy boards, and healthy churches. Helping you build that, we realized. And so we were able to, I suppose, put handlebars. I can remember, Chuck O'Connor, I think might have been, everyone argues about who was the first president, so I'm not going to say the first. Chuck O'Connor was the heritage president of the fellowship. Chuck O'Connor, was my uncle, so I've been part of this thing for a very long time. And forever, people would say, what is it the GGF does? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Uncle Chuck. Talk to Uncle Chuck. So we realized we needed to kind of put some handlebars on what it is we do for you. You needed to know what we do for you. And so we were able to refine our purpose a little bit. Our purpose driving statement became to serve our fellowship across the country and around the world to help build healthy pastors, boards, and churches. We drove ourselves towards that singularly. That was what we did. And we had to pull some things away that we were doing. We had to get stronger at some of the things that we weren't doing. It was interesting because at the same time I was serving prior to this, I was serving as a school superintendent. And I was completing my doctoral studies. And I told my board at the time, my time in education is not long. I believe I'm going to be moving into a church ministry somewhere. So they stopped paying for my PhD, which was gracious. But my PhD focus became church health. My thesis was that the church board has a significant impact on the health of a church. And that drove my research, and I think you've seen some of my research. In fact, there's a book on the back counter that I wrote for you. You can have it. We'll have more books. There's only maybe 10 there. We'll have more books by Wednesday, I think. If you haven't already received it, it's for church board health, because that is really my passion. We began to really tease out those gifts. So we heard you. The next slide. These are some things that we focused on. As a result of centralizing our purpose and our focus, you asked us in different shapes and different styles to help you build health within yourself, that you were watching across the street and seeing your pastor friends struggling in this area. We began working on that. How to help your boards, you know that. We've been serving your boards because I said before, we've seen a lot of wonderful pastors get absolutely ruined by well-intended boards. We know that. We know that. We know that's the world you live in. That's part of our focus. The work we're doing in congregations has been kind of tertiary. Primary was you, secondary was your boards. On the third side of it was your congregation. You're going to hear in the next hour what we're trying to do, what we're working toward in the area of strengthening your congregations. But we do know this. Working on your congregations and having an unhealthy pastor or unhealthy board is a bit like chasing our tail. If you aren't healthy, your congregation's health is at serious risk. And so we decide to focus that, but you're going to see some things we're working on. We knew we needed to strengthen the network, the brotherhood of you, the connection of your resources. We knew we needed to strengthen that. We have this fierce independence that our heritage is built upon, which is unfortunate. We're not a denomination, and we get that. But interestingly, we are a network of people who love each other and care for each other, and we knew we needed to strengthen that. So we started building a more frequent cadence of regional gatherings. You know that. And we realized that's an important element of this ministry. We started building the network, the mentoring network between you and each other. We worked on that. That was something you asked us to do, and we were working on that. And we built that mentoring relationship. Some of you in this room, a lot of you in this room that I see, are part of a current functional mentoring relationship with pastors across the room. You're going to hear that in Pastor Troy's testimony. Let me stop there for a minute and have a sub-point. If you're sitting in a seat right now and you're ready to mentor, come and see me or come and see John Lauder. We need more pastor mentors across our network of pastors. Similarly, if you're sitting in your seat right now and you're like, I could really use a pastor mentor. I need somebody who I can talk with, who I can share with. Please see John or I. Because we have men in our fellowship who are gifted and care about you and would like to be part of your walk. We began to stretch and expand the ministry of the GGF. We began to focus on what does it mean to help pastors become more healthy. What does that mean? The bottom point there is we began to expand by adding team members. I know that I think you know this. I'm the administrative side of our organization. I do all the back office stuff. And there is this intent to say we should hire a front office person. And I keep saying, listen, fundraising is hard enough. If we have enough money to hire an office person, let's put it towards somebody who can serve our pastors. And that was our first step. And we brought on Pastor John to serve you as our director of our pastoral care. And then we began to see we have projects, expansion of projects, and we couldn't do them ourselves. So instead of hiring another office assistant, we said, let's hire someone who can manage projects for us, someone who's good at the sequential idea of project management. And so we brought on Pastor Glenn Beaucamp, and praise God for that. And Pastor, you're going to hear more of these men. And then we got to a spot where we said, our ministry is expanding. We need more fundability. We need more ideas creatively of how to fund this ministry. And so that was a need that drove it, and Pastor Scott Myers raised his hand and said, I can help with that. And so now Pastor Scott. And in the expansion of a ministry, we're expanding the capacity to deliver that ministry to you. We know that we can promise a lot of things, but if you're scratching your head and you're saying, how can one guy serve this entire nation of pastors? I think that's a legitimate concern, and we saw that and we realized that was a necessary add-on. We also heard you say, strengthen the licensing and ordination journey. Strengthen that for us. Now, you're going to meet them tomorrow when we recognize our newly licensed and ordained pastors. You're going to see that tomorrow morning. So we're grateful. I'm grateful for the ministry that GCU invests into our men. There are men in this room. I wonder if I could just pause, and I'm gonna put you under heavy strain because I know this irritates this little ad hoc moment here. If you are a recent graduate of GCU, let's say recent being 5 years, that's a random number. If you're a recent graduate GCU, and you are in this pastoral readiness stage, or maybe you are already a pastor, you're already in that space, would you just stand up? If you're in the journey at the college or you've recently become one. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. All right. You guys can sit. Thank you, guys. I want to encourage you. We're building a reality, and you're going to hear more about this when Glenn gets up and speaks. Right now, we have somewhere between 15 and 20 men across our fellowship who are not college age, who are saying, I want to become a pastor. They're in your churches. And so we're building. Now we've gone from being able to strengthen our relationship with the college and strengthen our L&O. And I'm grateful for Pastor Caleb Beefus, who spends a lot of time guarding, equipping, and pushing forward the licensing ordination process. Pastor Caleb's in here. I know he is out there in the back. Pastor Caleb, if you wonder how our L&O process is strengthened right now, Pastor Caleb, who serves on our board as our vice chair, is also in charge of our licensing and ordination. Let me pause for a minute. Yeah. A lot of work. Let me pause for another moment. We need help. We need help in our license ordination. This is a heavy lift for Pastor Caleb. I know there are men in this room who have done testing and done listening and done grading. We're grateful for that. Thank you. If there is someone in this room who says, I think I would like to raise my hand and come alongside Pastor Caleb in this annual weight, this annual pressure of watching our L&O process, please see Pastor Caleb, see John or I. We need help. If you think you could help us grade, or you could help us do some of that work you can do it from anywhere you are in the country. We can send you data. We can send you things. I know, like, we have guys in Seattle, and we have men around this room who do that at the national level. We need your help. Because our goal is to plug that pipeline of men who want to become pastors. And so we're thinking, like, what does tomorrow look like? If we're already kind of stretched with our folks who can help, our goal, and you're going to hear more about that from Glenn, our goal is to plug the pipeline of men who are ready to serve in your churches. So be ready. We need your help. We are strengthening relationship with our affiliates. You asked us to do that. What does that mean? That means some of the relationships that have maybe you have heard are cold, distant. We are stretching across the aisle. They are stretching across the aisle. We're strengthening these relationships. We believe there is wisdom and strength in building healthy relationships outside of those relationships that are natural. Maybe outside of the relationships would naturally come to this ministry this week. We're spending a lot of time, and the men we have on our team are excellent at that as well. We believe that there are churches out there that have maybe been distant from the fellowship for a long time. That's what we're working on, Grace Fluency. We're working on the reality that the things that we once fought about at some point in the history of the world are no longer things we're fighting about. Let's move closer together because we want to serve alongside you. I was having a board retreat with a particular church that you and I would say was probably a colder relationship church. And they said, we're not part of the fellowship, Brian. I said, I don't care. They said we're never gonna be. I'm like, oh, that's a big word, but okay, I won't hold you to account on that. I said, listen, we don't care. We're here to serve you. We are here to serve you. We'll never give a gift to the fellowship because of X. I'm like, listen, I don't care. We don't need your money. We're not dependent on your money. We want to serve you because we believe in the strength of the fellowship. You asked us to provide resources, easy to access resources. Pastor Glenn, and along with his wife Lisa, they built that one resource center, the library and the archive center, that you can now go into. You can link off our website, and you can get access to a lot of our work that has been previously kind of distant to find. And they worked on that website to bring it under one single boilerplate that you can go in and you can buy or get access to. That was something you asked about. How do we get this thing? Well, you know what? That was a big ask. And it took Glenn and Lisa a year plus to be able to put that big thing together. But we manage it every week, every month right now. Lisa Beaucamp, who's down in Mobile, is the manager of that site for us. And it's something that we've given to you. And so the other side of it is the intentional care for pastors. And this is a little harder because intentional care is relational care. And that has been harder. And John serves in that area, and we work hard together on that. And we've been, that feels like we're dragging a toe in that one. Or I use the metaphor, kind of pushing a bus uphill a little bit. It's hard because you're complicated. No offense. You're complicated. We'll spend time with you, and you won't tell us because who do you tell? You build this reputation, you build this repetition of not being able to tell anybody what's going on in your life. Because you're leading a church. And they're coming to you, by the way, with all of their pressure and all of their concerns. And then we expect you to, in one lunch, tell us everything in your life. We know that. You're complicated. And so our heart, our hope, our prayer is that we're getting better at that. When you hear some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the next 30 minutes, I believe you'll see that we're putting our foot on the gas pedal on what it means to care for you in a more meaningful way. Okay, Pastor Troy. We're going to ask Pastor Troy to come up. And my heart, my hope is that you're just encouraged. Number one, by listening to a young pastor, by hearing his story, and by maybe being able to relate to it in some version of it all. And so, Pastor Troy, when you're done, I'll come up after you, bro. Mic on the ground. Don't step on it. Yeah, it's sweaty.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian. Honored to be here again. As you can see on the screen here, my name is Pastor Troy. I'm a pastor of Grace Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been here exactly 3 years now as of this first week in June. It's been a great process to be a part of that. And it's just been so great to be able to be one of the young men that receives the torch, right? Pastor Ken Kemper earlier talked about the reality of that 40 years ago. He was a young man going through the process as well, and now I have an opportunity of doing that myself. So first of all, I'll just kind of give him a background. I did not grow up in a Grace Church, but quickly after when I accepted Christ as Savior, later high school, and really felt that tug toward pastoral ministry, it became really obvious to me that I really needed two things. Right? I needed great role models to surround myself with, to help understand and equip me with the profession of pastoral ministry, as well as I craved a brotherhood, right? A brotherhood that is there for me, that can carry one another's burdens, that can help and guide me upon the path that we all know that comes with pastoral ministry. So I enrolled myself in Grace, and immediately, during the first year or two of Grace, I realized there was a brotherhood connected with the college, and that is the Grace Gospel Fellowship. Seeing guys like Pat McGillicuddy, Phil Long, Matt Lovren, Sam Vinton connected with the fellowship, and that made the process so easy for me as someone who was craving connections and role models to see and to emulate and imitate and to help equip me for pastoral ministry myself. And a part of that brotherhood was started through some of the pastoral trips that we were able to take as college students. And we were going down to Mobile, Alabama, visiting Forest Park Bible Church, even going to Florida, Palm Bay, Grace Bible Church there. And it was there where I was able to meet people outside of the Grand Rapids area as well, and to see, wow, our fellowship expands not just in this West Michigan region, but around our United States. And it was so cool to see men who had never met me before, I had never met them, instantly care about me, instantly care that you are going to be a next generation of the Grace Gospel Fellowship, that you have an opportunity to carry the torch and to lead with passion with the gospel. And that made me feel like, wow, through these men that I see here at the college, that the university has surrounded our young pastoral students around, as well as across the United States that they want us to meet, This is the fellowship that I want to be a part of. This is the organization that I want to be a part of, not just in the here and the now, but decades upon decades in the future. This is the organization that I want to become licensed and ordained under. And it was great those first couple years in college, having the conference right here in Baker Chapel once again. So it feels like, yeah, deja vu, right? But I was able to meet some of you for the first time as a junior, senior in college. Have conversations for you to meet and to understand my heart for ministry and for me to get to know you as well. And that created then that next step of licensing and ordination. And I tell you, it's more than just passing a test, right? You may hear, oh, license, ordination, a scary exam, knowing your theology, knowing your verses. But I tell you, what that has done for me, it's not just made me get a certificate. It's helped me teach in my church, to teach Sunday school well, Wednesday night well, knowing our theology, knowing some of the hard lines in our theology, but to communicate it for the next generation as well. We have some young men in our church in Indianapolis who look to me as their pastor. And what an opportunity for me to show and to teach some of the pastoral ministry that the Grace Gospel Fellowship has helped equip me with, and verses and explaining theological concepts that I had to understand through licensing and ordination. And then after graduating Grace, I was able to do a residency that turned into an associate pastor job at Grace Gospel Church in Ada, Ohio, and Pastor Trent did such an incredible job with me. I owe so much to him with developing my pastoral calling. And then also in Grace before that, I was able to serve with Pastor Gary Spikerman and Joe Johnson at Parkside Bible Church, and those two men did an excellent, excellent job of making pastoral ministry fun, making pastoral ministry exciting, of really showing the power of the gospel that has the ability to change and transform lives, and once again, role models that I can look up to, brotherhood that I can be a part of. Those two things are the connecting line in my journey and in my Grace Gospel Fellowship journey. And I did, again, it was about a year of residency that transformed into an associate pastor role at Grace Gospel Church in Ada, Ohio. And again, Pastor Trent, same thing. He showed me what it was like to have a great role model of a pastor to look up to see, talk about strength, weaknesses, and then eventually feel confident enough to try the journey of taking on my own church in Indianapolis, Indiana, and another church that might have had a season throughout its history of a lot of independence, right? A lot of independence and bold with that independence. But it was through the Grace Gospel Fellowship that I was able to show them and to tell them and to have them see that we're better together. We're better together than we possibly could ever be apart. And that comes through mentoring. And right now, Steve Blackwell has been coaching me for almost 3 years now himself, going through theology, going through spiritual disciplines, and mentoring as well. What is Steve Blackwell to me? Another great role model and another person that I can call a brother. And that is what the Grace Gospel Fellowship has done in my life and has connected me with so many of you. I know so many of you in this room already that I've had great, great heart-to-heart conversations for. And so much of what Bryan just had on the last screen represents my pastoral ministry journey. Of understanding and now being confident, as of yesterday, passing that ordination exam and being confident to continue to lead in our fellowship and to be one of the next generation leaders here in the Grace Gospel Fellowship. And that wouldn't have been possible without you all and the connection and the brotherhood that you've formed with me and welcomed me into, and that now I can continue growing with each one of you here today. So I really appreciate this, and I'm excited for decades upon decades of what the Grace Gospel Fellowship has in its future. So thank you.
Thank you both. So if you have been tossing around the idea of mentoring, being part of a young pastor's life, my hope, our prayer, is that this is just a moment for you to say, okay, this is something I think I could do. Bryan or John, connect me with somebody who's looking for mentoring, because I would like to be part of their journey as well. As we strengthen the network, we keep using the word brotherhood, as we strengthen the family of the fellowship, that pollination, that cross-pollination of your gifts and your interests and your passions are something that we continue to work toward. And it happens and starts in these kinds of spaces. All right, shifting into a space of what we're calling We're Hearing You. So what? Okay, so what? how are we looking forward? So in GGF version 2.0, we use that architectural rendering, that concept of the 3 columns and that structured building that says healthy pastor, healthy board, healthy church. That was the driving statement of what we're doing. So now what? It's a logical question. I want to spend the next few moments talking with you, and I want to set the table for this next segment because I'm going to be introing both each John and Glenn and Scott, and they're going to come up and speak to you on some of the things they're working on. And I'm going to intro that, and then I'm going to, when Glenn speaks, we have boxes of a pamphlet here that we're going to hand out to you. Everyone in the room gets one. Now, I want to pause for a moment. So we, a week ago, started realizing we hadn't even printed those yet. There's over 100 pages in this thing. And we wanted 130 of them. I'm like, whoa, that's something we forgot. And so we went out into the marketplace and tried to find somebody who would do it. And the old trusty Staples had a big, huge price tag. We might have been paying for someone's payment on their yacht, and that with the payment they were going to. And so I called up Matt Ritchie at Bible Doctors to Live By, and I said, can you help us, brother? We need something printed. And I'm grateful to Matt and Paul and Rebecca and Jennifer. You guys came together. You not only printed it, but you put it into a spiral bound, and you put some clear sheet on the front of it. It looks really, really well, and you did it for a cost that was really fit into our budget. So I'm grateful. Bible Doctrines, thank you. Thank you for that, yeah. Thank you. So there are a few men. I know Larry, I know Mark. Did you guys find a couple other guys to help pass things out? Whatever. If you haven't, if you didn't, we're going to call for it. We're going to need like maybe 3 or 4 guys because we're going to wait to pass it out. Because just like you, when you're handing things out, I know as soon as we hand that thing out, you're going to be doodling in it. You're going to be coloring in the lines. We're going to wait for the very last second to hand that out because it's going to be something that Pastor Glenn's going to be talking with you about. So at that moment, I'll call you up and we'll keep things moving. I want to share with you. So what does the architectural rendering look like? When we're talking about, go ahead, the next slide. When we're talking about, I'll put this down. Christine, I'll just drive it through this, or Philip. So what does the architectural rendering look like? Go backward 1 step there, Philip. So this is what we're looking at as a team. Tomorrow we have a board meeting with our national board. We're going to be digging a lot more into this thing and actually presenting a project that's really exciting to our board for them to move into that space of proof of concept kind of idea. So this is kind of a driving thought. What next? So if you haven't already felt like, backward again, I'll tell you when we're going to roll. If you haven't already felt like we've taken big steps, we're praying over big steps right now because we're seeing some things that have happened. And you know this in your own ministry. When you become really good at what you're doing and you're really, good in your ability to restrict what is it you do? Jim Collins in Good to Great called the hedgehog principle. Get good at something and become an expert in something. The hedgehog principle. We are realizing that healthy pastors, healthy boards, and healthy church are what we do. So we wanted to get proficient at this. And as you get more proficient at what you love doing, things open up in that space to say, here are some things that you should also be doing. If you're going to say you're going to do this, how about this? My hope is in the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we're going to be doing that for you. Not 30, because John's still got to come up. In the next 25 minutes, we're going to be hammering through it. So I want to show you. So we're saying this is really taking a big step. We're looking forward to it. Prayerfully advancing the ministry of the GGF. And that means really healthy pastor, healthy board, healthy church. Prayerfully advancing what we do with and for you. That's what drives us forward. Okay, Philip. So the architectural rendering, which if you're a design person, next slide. If you're a design person, this just probably grinds you because it's probably good in the 1990s, but it's the extent of my design work. This is maybe just to give you the concept of what we're doing. We're building upon things. We're embracing what has come before us, and we're building upon it. This doesn't require any type of understanding. See, we're embracing what we were. and we're looking forward to what we are. So GGF, our history, embracing it, we praise God for the great work that has been done before us. And you are too. We love what has happened through the decades in our fellowship. GGF version 2.0 was us saying, okay, let's refine this thing. Let's sharpen the stick a little bit. Let's get really specifically focused on the things that we can and should provide to and for you. GGF Strategy 2027 is the next thing. It's the next thing we're thinking of and seeing. Next slide. So this next slide shows you how we're hearing you. In relationship to us being accountable to you, we're giving you some sense of what we're looking at so you can hold us to account for the things we're doing. This is things you have asked us about. You, your staff, your congregations have asked us about these things. To create a K-12 Christian ed curriculum that is fresh, that's mid-Acts dispensational, that's grace positive, and that's GGF proprietary. In other words, we own it. Something that you can deploy in your church, because this is what we do know in a church where you don't have the bench depth. You're often, or your spouse often, or your child often is doing Sunday school listening. And we get that. And you have asked us, please give us curriculum so you don't have to pull out things or push things into curriculum that's thin. We realize that this is something that you have asked for. So tomorrow, Glenn and John Spooner are going to come up and talk with you a little bit about that, give you a sense of what we're doing, and also give you kind of a timeline of when we're going to have this thing ready. To continue to strengthen our church boards, I can tell you between now and through the end of 2025, I've got several church board retreats that I'm still working on. I'm passionate about it. Scott Paskowitz, who serves on our board also, is helping us do follow-through work on that. So we're starting to do second, third, fourth laps with our church boards, helping them grow, building more strength in that area. Your boards have asked us to help with the pastoral search process. And we want to sit in that seat. We want to help boards understand how to interview pastors. Because I'll tell you what we find often, and you know this, we have a board of men who are used to interviewing professionals out in the workplace, and they come into the boardroom. And we have pastors who have never been interviewed in their life trying to navigate that water. How do I navigate when people ask me questions that don't make any sense? And we're trying to navigate that space with them. So search committees are coming to us. John and I are serving alongside search committees to say we want to help this succeed. I was just talking with this, in the last month. How's that? Because some of you know where I've been. So I'm going to make it really stretched out. In the last month. And one guy said, thank you for doing this. He said, because it's so easy to put a young, inexperienced pastor into a meat grinder, into a church that's not ready for him. And that's the opposite to putting a pastor in a church and they're not ready for the church. And what we're trying to do, John and I are trying to do, is build that connection so that we can help that better. The next thing you have been asking for, and this is something we see, is to build a cadre of well-qualified pastors. Build that. Work with the college. Do that more. Work with BBI. Do that more. How do we, as a fellowship, help you so that your board, your congregation, isn't sitting in anxiety, watching you approach a retirement date, and hearing out in the narrative that pastors are retiring at 37% of pastors queried last year said they're thinking about or on the pathway of retirement. Churches are closing 4,500 a year right now. Your congregation hears and sees that. And we realize that's part of our responsibility to you, to help build that cadre. Providing supportive care for our pastors, your wife, your marriage, and your family. I'm really, really encouraged to be able to share some things with you in the next 30 minutes that I think you will be touched by. You'll see God's hand working in this space. You'll see how it fills a vacuum in our abilities. We're working toward it. You're going to see this thing presented in the next few minutes. Now, the natural question, if you have a business mind, is how are you funding all this stuff? That's a really good question. Trust me. I wake up at night often with that anxiety. How do you fund the things that you're planning to fund? And that's a good question. You're going to hear from Scott Myers. Scott has become, he's now part of our team as our national director of ministry support. He's working alongside me, and he's worked alongside Amy in the area of communication, and we're working together. You're going to hear a little bit more about that because that's a very natural reality. If you don't have any funding mechanism other than philanthropy, Brian, how are you making big steps? Well, we're working on that. We're going to be working. You're going to hear from Jim and Marcy Fossey, and maybe, I don't know, I don't remember if you're coming up or John's going to talk about it, but we're working on legacy gift planning. How do we help your congregation understand legacy gifts? Because you wrestle with the same thing we wrestle with: shortage of resources, shortage of people. So we're hoping to build that knowledge and that base into you. And then the continuing ed for pastors. You have asked about that. Some of you haven't been in I would say, a strict area of academic accountability. How's that? You have not taken formal academic efforts to strengthen your craft in a long time. Could be 20, 30, 40 years. But you're asking for it. You're saying, how do we counsel families? How do I counsel a family whose child is going through gender identity issues? That wasn't in any class that my dad taught in family counseling 45 years ago. Trust me, I know that. How do you get through those kinds of things? How do you strengthen your skills you haven't maybe looked at or researched, like maybe these guys who have just gone through ordination yesterday? So we're going to build a continuing ed module for you, and those are some things we're working on, some things that John is also working on. We got some fun things in the future. And then across our fellowship, you have been asking, our fellowship is asking, how do we, if we're investing into the national church, how do we invest into the international church? We have a heart for that, folks. We do. You do too. By the way, I go into your churches and I see mission walls all over the country. Your churches give to the international church, and we want to be part of that. We don't want to have some kind of a glass barrier between what we can do to help your international efforts. And we care for those churches. We care for those church ministry leaders. We care for the ministries of TCM and GMI, and how do we help them do the work they're doing in the international church. So we have some exciting things going on. We're moving forward. I'm going to be calling these guys up in a moment here, and first will be Pastor John, and John's going to give you some updates on some things that we're doing within the ministry of pastoral care. So John, come on up, brother, and you can have, I think you have maybe a slide or two in this, and I think Philip will help you there.
If you can go to the next slide there, Philip. Yep, there we go. All right, so back when I came on to staff here at GGF a couple years ago, they talk about all these things that my job description would include at a very short amount of time in a week. And so I boiled my job description down to 2 words. My job is to love pastors. That's really my job, is to love pastors. And everything that goes along with pastors, things that pastors need, I want to help us do that. But it is extremely clear, probably to all of you, there is no way that one person can love pastors sufficiently. It's impossible. And so I can truthfully say it has truly been humbling. I mean, honestly, humbling. When I look at some of the people who have come alongside and said, hey, I want to help love pastors. I want to help love pastors. I got something I could offer. I could help love pastors. And as people are coming forward, so I'm going to introduce you to a couple this morning, but this is not just the only ones. It is so humbling because like I said, there's no way that I can do it. When we talk about oftentimes pastoral care, I put it into a couple different categories. One is what we would call a reactive care. And you probably can understand this even within your own ministries as far as what it goes into. There are times when you have to react to care situations. You get the phone call, you get the email, you get the situation that you're like, I need to react to this. And it's urgent, it's important, you got to do it. And so a lot of times that's what I have to do. We get called in, whether it's thankfully not very often is it church discipline, but a lot of times there are serious situations that are going on, whether it's with the board of the pastor or the pastor to the board or the church. to be able to come in, walk alongside. It's really important work, and it's a privilege. It's a lot of weight sometimes, but it's a joy for me to be able to do that. But that's just the reactive care. What about the proactive care? What about the phone call? Just to be able to reach down and pick up the phone and make a phone call and say, "Hey, I'm John. Well, what do you want?" I don't want anything. I'm just calling to say hi. Are you sure you don't want anything? No, I really don't. I'm just calling to say hi. That's really all that I'm doing. You don't want my money, or I'm not late for registration or anything? No, I just am calling to say hi. That's what I would call proactive care. You know as well as I know. You make one of those phone calls, and next thing you know, it's 45 minutes later. And the person wasn't expecting your phone call. But all of a sudden, just the fact that you just cared enough to care, they open up. And that's what happens. And I love that piece that I get to do. But when you look at the other responsibilities that go along with the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the yearly responsibilities, it's hard to do that. And then there's a third area, reactive care, proactive care. And then another big one is preventative care. I mean, we know what preventative care is. That's what your doctor yells at you about, okay? Make sure you come for your annual physical. The dentist is always on you. Did you sign up for your next appointment? We do that stuff because it's preventative care. It's keeping up with things. And, if you as pastors, if you as ministry leaders, if you guys are unhealthy, it is going to play out in your ministries. It's going to. So as we look as a GGF, yes, we need to be able to provide reactive care. Praise God. I have a great team. I love working with Bryan. I love working with Scott. I love working with Glenn. We have a great team to be able to bounce ideas, to be able to provide care, oftentimes in traumatic situations. But to be able to provide that proactive care and that preventative care, that's where we got like Ken Farmer. If you don't know Ken looks like Santa Claus. Ken, if you want to stand up here. So Ken, if you've not met Ken, yeah. If you know Ken, this guy cares. I mean, he cares. And he's been through so much, and you're going to hear more of a story on Thursday where we're going to talk about why I believe Ken is uniquely gifted. Maybe not the way he wanted it, but uniquely gifted to be able to come alongside and provide what I would call proactive care to you. And so Ken is going to be retiring in just a little bit. You're going to be going on the road to be able to do what we call front porch ministry. And that is, he wants to show up where you live, which is kind of exciting. Once again, this is not to pump you for money or anything. It's just to be able to go out. And I had a chance to go down to Florida back, I guess it was last summer. And I got to go around. And it was so cool to be able to go to some of these pastors and be able to say, hey, I want to see where you serve. I want to see your church. And to go in, they'd show me their office or whatever else. And, when I call them, when I talk to them, I have a frame of reference and versus just a phone call or a Zoom call. And so Ken is going to be able to help me with what we call the ministry of presence. Going in, helping build those proactive relationships. Being able to be the guy who says, I'm just calling to say hi. I'm just calling to check in. That's what I'm going to do. Also, another aspect of it is mental wellness. And once again, you'll hear this from Ken on Thursday. Some of you guys carry some heavy, heavy burdens. Maybe it's something you're going through. Maybe it's something your wife is going through. Whatever it is, how can you not carry that over into your ministry? And, mental wellness, mental health has become it's a big thing that's being talked about today. And sometimes it gets overplayed. But in other cases, especially in the church, a lot of times we downplay it because, hey, we're supposed to just be able to pray more and have it go away, right? And so to have Pastor Ken Farman, who's going to be able to work with me, work with our team, to be able to work with you, to be able to provide care, we'll definitely talk more about that. But it also will include some resources, financial resources, if you're going to need that, to be able to be healthy, functioning pastors and leaders. And then the last piece is ministry of care to our pastors and their wives. We were going to call it marriage ministry, but nothing like having the marriage ministry person call you up and say, hey, how's it going? we had a fight. Most people aren't going to say that stuff. So that's why we've got Jim and Marcy Foss. Jim and Marcy, are you sitting in the room here? Where are you guys at? There they are. Okay, Jim and Marcy, if you guys want to stand up. This is their picture, but this is Jim and Marcy. You know, there are people who you go to them and you introduce yourself to them, and immediately, like instantly, you feel like you're the most important person in the world to them. That's Jim and Marcy Fossey. I mean, they talk to you, and it's like they genuinely care. I mean, that's really, it's like they genuinely care. So when they say, like, hey, how you doing? That's not code for go away. It really is code for, hey, how are you doing? And we had a chance to be able to go and stay at their house, and we were loved on like crazy by them. And they just love people. They love couples. And the ladies are going to be able to hear from Marcy on Thursday in the ladies' session on some of these things. But we want to help you, not just you, pastor, but we really want to help you as a marriage, as a couple. And so we'll talk more about that. But just, I want you to hear, it is so humbling to me to have people who I look up to, like them, be able to say, come along and be like, hey, I want to help love pastors. I want to help love pastors. So maybe you're sitting here in this room and you're like, I want to help love pastors. Trust me, there's plenty of work to do. If you want to help love pastors with me, I can't pay you hardly anything, okay? But if you want to help love pastors with me, I would welcome that. So that's what we're working on for the GGF.
Confidently excited. Thank you, John. We care for you, we love you. It's part of the driving thing we do. So the next step we want to talk about is giving Glenn the opportunity to speak to the idea of what it looks like to clog the pipe of ready candidates. I know that's that's a horror. I'm going to have to come up with a better metaphor than that. That doesn't sell very well, clogged pipes. If you can think of a better metaphor, just yell it up. The idea is, admittedly, okay? Don't please. Every time I speak, I get emails, so don't worry about it. I know you already hate it. So this idea of equipping properly candidates who want to become pastors. What does that look like? So last year at the Pastors Conference, if you were there, we presented what we called the Pastoral Development Initiative. We wanted to understand what that looks like, what that feels like. And we wanted to build a construct. We wanted to build a system to not only understand it, but to respond to it. And so over the last year, you're going to see this 100-page document that Bible Doctrines was so graciously able to print for us. We're going to pass that thing out to you. If you would use a little discipline, first of all, if guys who are going to pass these out, if you would come on up, Glenn's going to help you get these things. Friends, if you would just use a little discipline, don't flip through it because it's super distracting. You know that. You wrestle with that yourself. Glenn's going to talk through this thing. You're going to end up seeing, I would say, a result of the last year of work. Now, you are also probably in the group of pastors who we asked to help us with this because we wanted it to be a 360 kind of learning experience. So we built the construct and we asked you to lean into it. And many of you who we asked, if you weren't asked, don't be offended. We just tried to get a group of people who could speak into it. We wanted you to be able to speak into this thing. It's in front of you. Hold on looking at it. It's in front of you. That is one more challenge we're asking you to do. We did print it with some level of confidence that it's nearing its final draft, clearly. We printed it with that expectation, but it's not written in stone because it's a very, very liquid, fluid kind of document. But the Pastoral Development Initiative is what we released or revealed to you last year at the Pastors Conference. This is Glenn, a year's worth of work of Glenn working into this, talking with you, getting info, getting feedback. So Glenn, come on up, brother. Glenn's going to give you an update on this project. Thank you guys for helping pass these things out. Yeah, right here. This whole thing is right there.
That's so cute.
Isn't it adorable? So the idea is that Glenn's going to help you walk through this. This is a project update. That's the ministry that Glenn has been primarily involved with. Now, Glenn also has served our fellowship by going and helping over on the West Coast. And so Glenn not only does this, but he travels and serves in Florida and West Coast. So there is a lot that Glenn does, but this is a major, significant project update. And this is not the end of it. You're going to hear a little bit more. So you need some more. There's some more in the back, guys, that they need. Dwayne and Andrew, it looks like. Maybe Carlos. Yeah. Anyone else not get a booklet that you have promised not to open yet? Okay. Okay, Glenn, it's all yours, brother.
Thanks, man. First off, I want to do a quick commercial about, we did promise that archive, the resource and archive library to you guys over the past years. And I just wanted to give you just a super quick update on that. So I just looked at the research that they give you on how many people look at your site and all that kind of stuff. The people that have looked at the site have increased just over the past month 111%. And the purchases and downloads that have come from that site have increased 317%. And that's just over the past month. Just last week, I had 35 different downloads and purchases from that site. It's there, guys. And it's a culmination of curriculum, charts, tracks, books, videos. There's links on there that take you to other churches, your churches. You can find your church on there. It'll take you to your website or your Facebook page or your YouTube page so people can, see and hear your sermons and stuff like that. So I just want to give you a quick update on that because a lot of what we do here on the PDI, the Pastoral Development Initiative, a lot of the resources that you can use to help you with that are found there, okay? Give me one slide if you would, please. The Pastoral Development Initiative. So that's the big project, one of the big projects that I'm working on with the GGF. And before I move on, I'm never letting you go with that clogged pipe thing. That's never going to go away. Never going to go away. Tomorrow's pastors, never going to go away. Pastoral Development Initiative. Tomorrow's pastors come from today's healthy churches. Okay? That's the way it's always been. That's the way it should always be. Right? It's not that you don't just go to the pound and there's a big bin full of puppy pastors and you find the cute one that you like, you take them home. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. Tomorrow's pastors come from today's healthy churches. That's what we're trying to do. That's what this initiative is all about. So I want to take you through. You got this huge thing, 100-page thing that I've been doing over the past year. It's crazy, right? Give me one more slide. So the philosophy of this concept is kind of a couple of different things, right? Pastoral Development Initiative, it's a pathway. I like that word pathway because it is a road, it's a journey that we go on, whether we are people in ministry or people that want to go into ministry or what that looks like. And it is a pathway that is supplied for you. No, go back one. There you go. It gives you subjects, it gives you resources, it gives you everything. Each one of us hopefully has a guy. We all have a guy in our church. I had this guy in Mobile. His name is Andrew. He couldn't be here. Andrew, been serving at his church for years, right? And he comes to me because we're friends and says, I want to be a pastor. And he goes to another church. He goes to the Grace Bible Church in Mobile. His pastor, unfortunately, got tongue cancer and had to have a large portion of his tongue removed. Imagine that if you're a pastor and you talk for a living. Not an easy carry. He's gone through rehabilitation. He's good to go now. But I went to that pastor and said, how about I help Andrew, mentor Andrew? And I did. And in that space, we provided for him the ability to mentor, give him resources, and do those kinds of things with him. And he was able to be able to work through that pathway, and I was able to work through that pathway with him. But as we started to go through this pastoral development initiative, we realized that it's a bigger ask than that. So we kind of focused on 3 specific areas. There's the youth area and the early education stuff, which we're going to talk, John and I are going to talk about more tomorrow. But we want to start our youth off in the right direction, right? We want to give them that good biblical foundation that they need, right? And then, of course, there's the next level, which is the collegiate level. Thank the Lord. We are here on the campus of GCU, and we have so many people that we can have come here and learn about the Lord. We have BBI that people can go to, and they can learn about the mid-Acts dispensational perspective that we have here. Thank the Lord for that. But sometimes there are those that don't do that. Maybe they don't go to that college level. Maybe they go into a trade or something like that, but they're still interested in ministry, right? And then, of course, there are those second calling, second career, like my buddy Andrew. He's in his late 30s. He's got 3 little kids. He owns his own business. He's not moving to Michigan, okay? He just can't do that. And he can take some online courses, which is fantastic that these institutions supply those things, but he needs a way, a direction, a pathway to get him to L&O, right? That's what this is about. So this kind of encompasses 3 areas: the youth, the collegiate, and the second calling, second career is what we call those guys. One more slide. There you go. So in doing that, we wanted to provide for you pastors. Pastors call me up and go, I got a guy, but I don't know what to do with him. Okay? And I bet you at one point in time, every single one of us have been there. I got a guy, I don't know what to do with him. Well, let's figure that out together. And in that space, we provided for you. And if you have that booklet, I'm going to skip ahead to a slide at the very end. The very last page of that booklet gives you what I call a scorecard, okay? If you want to look at the rest of the packet, you can do that too. But if you look at the last page, there's what we call a scorecard. And on that scorecard, the idea that we're shooting for here is to bring all the mentee candidates, all right, up to a level of competency that they will be able to function in ministry as a pastor or in ministry in general. Wouldn't it be awful if we had 50 guys in our church that were at the elder level, right? Wouldn't that be awful? That you could just walk in one Sunday and point, hey man, could you teach me Sunday school class today? Sure. Wouldn't that be terrible? I don't know what I'd do with myself. All right? But here we see that we want to be able to evaluate people as they are and to help them to grow in that pathway to ministry and to L&O. In doing that, we're using a competency-based level scoring type of a thing, right? So there's obviously the beginning level. The beginning level is just a foundational knowledge of something, right? The very beginning of your packet, there's like a table of contents, but one of the first things on systematic theology is angelology. So I thought I'd just do that, the study of angels, because it's A and it's close to find. So maybe you just have heard of an angel. I saw on TV once that there was one. But then there's another level, and that's growing. Maybe you have a little bit more robust knowledge of it. You actually have a working knowledge of that thing, whatever that is, whether it's in whatever section that you're looking at. You have ability to use that and have a foundational knowledge, and you're still growing in that knowledge. That, my friends, is kind of like commissioning, okay? You have that knowledge, and you're still growing with it, right? Then you go with that next level. The next level is the competence level. You are fully able to handle the material and utilize it in a level of ministry that you're in. And that is kind of like our licensing process. You are now competent and able to use it and reproduce it in another person, right? And then, of course, there's the highest level, which is that proficiency. You have that mastery over that topic, and you are now able to teach it, mentor it, reproduce it all the way. You know, if we all go through like the Maxwell series and stuff like that, we all know that the diminishing returns, the cycle of diminishing returns is that you can never reproduce yourself 100% another person. But if they already have that knowledge and they're striving to go with that knowledge, you'll be able to help and mentor them and drive them to a point where they could reach where you are or maybe even surpass you. But they have to have that pathway. They have to have that direction, right? So next slide, if you would, please. To do that, we use the model of our current L&O system, which is broke down into 3 areas. For those of you guys who went through that already just recently, you know what that's like. The basis for what we're doing is broke down into theological studies, dispensational theology, and practical ministry skills. Those are the areas that you're going to be tested on when you go through the L&O process. So we want to merge those things together. We want to be able to score you or look at you or evaluate you, and we want you to evaluate yourself as to where you are in those specific areas where you might be a little, your strength might be, or where you might be a little sheepish, right? But it's going to give you this ability in these areas to be able to focus and to move in that sequential way. Now, it's not the reason why the youth and the collegiate and the second calling is the way that it is actually kind of important. We want to be able to use and utilize, 5, okay, we're going to move on. Theological studies, we want to get that baseline. We want to make sure that everybody has what they need. And then we want to go into that dispensational theology. And we're going to talk more about this tomorrow when we're doing our youth and our curriculum and stuff like that. And then our second calling and second career people, in theory, are people that have been serving in our church for maybe the past 10, 15 years, but now they want to become pastors. So they need to raise their education level to meet their experience. Whereas a lot of the guys here that have graduated from GCU and are now getting into their licensing and their ordination, they have the knowledge base, but they don't always have all the experience. So that's why we have our residency programs and things of that nature. One more slide real quick. In this is what looks like this pastoral development initiative. And if you look in your booklets there, you're going to see that there is all kinds of different subjects there that you could be and may be potentially tested on in this space, right? In the L&O process or in the ministry process in general. And that scorecard that is there at the end of your packet gives you the ability to look through these different areas, each individual areas, and to be able to be honest with yourself and score yourself. I need some help here. Talk about angels, right? If you're looking at your packet, you're going to see, and I'll do this really fast, the structure of how this packet works is that it gives you a basic explanation of the area of study that you're going to go through. So if you look at the systematic theology, you're going to see the first thing, because it's an A, it's the study of angels, and it's going to explain that really fast, right? After that, it's going to give you the 3 or the 4 areas of scoring, whether you're at the beginning level, the growing level, the competent or proficient level. And there's also going to be ways for the mentor in this thing to be able to assess each individual person, and for the person themselves to be able to assess whether or not they're able or at that level, right? And then after that, there is mentor's guidance there. So if you're the mentor, you'll be able to read that and hopefully be able to help that person through that process of learning. And then on top of that, each area has either theological events, biblical studies. With angelology, there's a list of the different types of angels. And then after that, there's a list of the named angels that are in the Bible and all the scripture that goes along with it. So you can use it as a study guide for that person to be able to know what to do with it. So you have the ability to take this scorecard right here, be honest and upfront with each other, score it out, And then when you find that weakness, you can utilize this as a roadmap, a pathway to help that person in their ministry, growing in their church, all the way to the L&O process. That is it, because I'm out of time. If you have questions about this, absolutely ask me afterwards. I know it's a huge lift there, what we've done, and we need lots of help with it. I'll talk about that tomorrow. But if you have questions about it, ask me later.
Confident excitement, right? So we, he says, let's go. We will. So the side of developing pastoral candidates, that cadre of ready men who are going to step into a pastoral role or an elder role or deacon or a Sunday school teacher. The reality is this is meant to give you that space to move people down that path. Okay, with Pastor Scott, who's up here with me, if you didn't notice. So we're working on what does it look like to fund this ministry? What are we doing? But also more than that, we want to teach you how to think creatively about funding constructs within your own church. Our goal is internally to work on the funding mechanism of this ministry. But externally, the outward-facing speakers are to help you build that competency. So Scott's going to give us some information there.
Thank you, Brian. It was late last year that I finally reached full retirement age. And so I am now busier than I was when I was working for the man. Actually, it's been an honor and very satisfying working with the team, and so I want to thank each of them for that. My role as ministry support basically is fundraising and what that looks like and how we can increase resources for our current future initiatives and projects to meet our mission of healthy pastors, healthy boards, healthy churches. As serving as a pastor at Northwest Bible Church for the last 25 plus years, I am acutely aware of the difficult challenge it is to face the challenge of making sure you have adequate resources to do and accomplish what the Lord has entrusted to you to do in your ministry. Often it feels like and seems like we've got a $20 bill to go where a $100 bill ought to go. Okay, we all understand that. We all feel that. And for pastors, and I know this was my experience, it seemed like talking about giving and the funding of our ministry seemed and felt very self-serving. And as a result, we don't talk about it. Because we don't want to be accused of being, only about the offering, right? So I want to ease your mind. The Grace Gospel Fellowship is not here to put the squeeze on you for resources. That's not what my vision is for this. I want to remind us also, though, that there is no fixed pie. Our mindset a lot of times is God is limited in what resources he has available for our ministry. That is not true. That is not true. Our God is unlimited, but we want you to think, Brian and I want you to think of us as a staff at the Grace Gospel Fellowship as on your staff, but not on your payroll. We are committed to helping you as a church grow your resource pool so you can accomplish all that God wants you to do. That's priority number one. In all our fundraising efforts, we want every Grace believer to know that the very first commitment they make should be to their local church where they are being spiritually fed, not to the Grace Gospel Fellowship or any other organization. So we want you to know we're here to help you raise the pool of funds you have available for you to do ministry. The GGF is not in competition with the local church. We're here to serve the local church, to help you thrive and to expand your current ministries. Okay? Now, at the same time, we have to be honest and say that we do need your ongoing support. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there are other grace organizations besides the GGF, Grace Christian University, Berean Bible Institute, Grace Missions International, Things to Come, Prison Mission Association, Grace Pub, Bible Doctrines to Live By, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They need your support too. How do we balance all this? Actually, I think it's rather simple. And let me just read you 5 verses of Scripture out of 2 Corinthians chapter 8, where Paul challenges the wealthy Corinthians and uses the poverty-stricken Macedonians as motivation for grace giving. Now, brothers and sisters, we make known to you the grace of God, which was given to in all the churches of Macedonia. Listen to this. That in a great ordeal of affliction, their abundance of joy and their deep poverty overwhelmed in a wealth of generosity. For I testify according to their ability and beyond their ability. They gave abundantly, voluntarily, begging with us much and with much fervor that we would allow them the favor of participation in the support of the saints, and this not as we expected, but they first gave themselves to the Lord and then to us by the will of God. The simple strategy was shared with me by my pastor, Jim Shamaria Sr., when I first became pastor at Northwest Bible Church. Pastor Jim said to me, Scott, you remember that you won't attract what you want. You will attract what you are. Think about that. I'm suggesting that all of us as spiritual leaders in our churches, that we would become the example of what the Lord is asking us to challenge our congregations to do. First, give yourself to Him. Your time, your talent, your treasure. To provide what He's entrusted to your care. Invest financially, you, in your own church. Then in a Grace Gospel Fellowship. And then choose 1 or 2 grace organizations to support yourself. But Scott, we don't have any margin. We run out of money before we run out of month. I know. Me too. Us too. And yet, Paul gives an equation in 2 Corinthians 8. The heart of joy plus circumstances of poverty equals generosity. It's the math of grace. When we steward what He has entrusted to us well, and we release it to the Lord, He always replaces and then rewards. So here's a suggestion for you. Get with your spouse if you have one. Take a look at your checkbook over the last month and find $75 that you could have done without. Maybe it's a movie and a large popcorn and a large soda. It's about $75 now. Maybe it's Starbucks. I don't know. Maybe it's instead of going to McDonald's instead of going to Olive Garden. I don't know what it is. Find $75 and take $25 and add it to what you already give to your church. Go online to ggfusa.org and commit $25 a month, reoccurring to the GGF, and then go find 1 or 2 grace organizations and give an additional $25 to them, and watch what God does. That's my challenge to you. That's not presumption. According to Paul, that's giving beyond your ability. And if you're willing to do that, I can promise that the God of all grace will expand that simple step of faith that you cannot even imagine right now the result of. My responsibility is to help us as grace believers increase the resources that are available for us for ministry. I'm asking you to take a little step. My partners in the ministry support team also want to assist you as well, and I'm available to talk the whole week if you want to talk about some strategies. But I'd like to introduce Jim and Marcy Fossey. I'd like them to come on up. They're going to explain to you a little bit about establishing legacy gifts that'll benefit not only your families, your church, our fellowship, but also other grace organizations.
Thank you, Scott. I am Jim Fossey. I'm not wearing my name tag right now, but it says Grace Gospel Fellowship, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am not from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am from a little town in central Washington. Some of you have come and visited, and we love the opportunity to host people and share with them. But if you really, really want to find out about Wenatchee, Washington, go talk to Cam Townley, because he grew up there. Yeah. All right. I'm not a pastor. I attended GBC. I transferred to Wheaton College. I graduated with a degree in Christian education. I went into ministry, and fairly quickly, the Lord called me out of that ministry and placed me in the ministry with Seattle Fire Department. I worked there for 33 years and retired as a deputy chief. One of the things that we did very well was we planned. We planned for the worst case scenario. My wife absolutely hates that because I always think about what's the worst thing that can happen and work backwards. But when Bryan Walker called and he said, hey, would you guys consider putting together a seminar on finishing well, leaving a legacy, talking about estate planning, I went, oh, yeah, planning? You bet. And so we stepped into that role. I've spent a lot of time checking out resources and reading and finding out about estate planning. Some people would consider this a taboo topic. Statistics say that about 70% of the people in America do not have estate plans. 70%. So from right about here over, don't have estate plans. So there we are.
And that's what we found when we were talking to people about what we were going to be doing. We were talking to friends, people from our church, relatives, and a shocking number of them were unprepared. Either they did not have an estate plan, any will, or anything in place, or they were so old that they had a guardian for their adult children still in their estate plan. Very outdated. Anytime you cross a state line, you should update your will. So a lot of the people that we talked to were not prepared. The other thing that we found out is that, well, I'm planning on giving everything to my kids. And what we would like to do is plant a seed that you don't have to leave everything to your kids, that there's a way in your estate planning to have a final gift on the date of your death to your church, to organizations like GGF and GCU, other organizations that you're passionate about now, but in the final last gift of your life could make a huge impact on a church or an organization.
Our presentation falls under the category of healthy churches. I was listening to Rachel Cruz, who is Dave Ramsey's daughter, and she said, we won't have healthy churches until they understand about financial things. Not having the abundance of money, but understanding what their role is in giving and in preparing to transfer that wealth at the end of their lives. So that's what we're really kind of aiming at. So what will this be? It's a 45 to 60-minute presentation in your church where we talk about the concept of retirement, what that looks like.
One of the things that I like to share, we were able to share at Scott and Heidi's church in Enumclaw, is that retirement. And it's not the end of something, but possibly the beginning of something. And what can we do in the area of our time, our talents, and our treasure in that last maybe quarter or third of our lives? So we'll talk a little bit about that, about how God wants to use us now. Maybe we're 30 or 40 years old, or in retirement. So that's part of the topics that we're going to be covering.
We also look at giving, like Scott talked about. How do you give right now? What is the process? And this may take some things off your plate if you're uncomfortable talking about giving and tithing. We address it in our seminar. But we also talk about the estate plan, and then who does the money rightly go to? We emphasize your church first and foremost, and the three-letter acronym organizations after that.
That shall remain nameless right now. We're going to look about how to put together a well-organized estate plan. The different documents that are needed. It's not just a last will and testament, but things like a power of attorney for your finances and your health care, a living will or advanced directive, medical directive on what you want in the last moments of your life, and how to speak to your children or whoever is going to be the executor of your estate, how to talk to them about what your plan is and how important that can be.
I think hand in glove with that is just the idea of a gift, not necessarily what you are transferring to your heirs, but the preparation of having that done is truly a gift to your family and your heirs, your beneficiaries. The last thing we kind of talk about is really nuts and bolts of how to get that document done, whether it should be talking with an attorney or if it's going online and using one of the online will preparation services. There's a lot of great resources that can be used out there. Also, I would encourage you to look at this kind of holistically. This isn't just for old people, although old people tend to be the ones who really respond the most. But people who are in their 20s, in their 30s, who have anything of value, including your precious children, should have estate planning documents. Who takes care of your kids in case the Lord calls you home? How will they be provided for? That's all spelled out in those documents. And also, again, we're going to look at the spiritual discipline of giving, and we're going to emphasize that in this seminar.
We've kind of titled this Finishing Well, Leaving a Legacy. And so we're going to be concentrating on how do we finish well. We mentioned the use of our time, talents, and treasures in that last and final gift, and what a kind of a gift that can be to our children, to be faithful to the Lord in that last gift and what they can see in that.
If you would like to schedule one of these, we would love the opportunity to come to your church and present. We love to travel. My wife has a suitcase packed all the time, and it worries me, okay? She's always ready to go. If you want to discuss this here, please come and talk to us. If you don't want to come and talk to us here, but you think about it, there's information up there, our name and email address and phone number. Please use that. Give us a call, send us an email, send us a text. We'd love to set something up with you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Fossies and Pastor Scott. I think you have to hear that you maybe didn't catch is if they do come to your church, it is no cost to you. Between the Fossies' generosity and the ministry of the fellowship and some gifts that have come in, they travel to you, and it's not a cost on you as a church, because we know that's a heavy lift for churches. So here we are. So that, I'll summarize real quickly. I think you're catching the metaphor. We're building upon. We're excited. This session is a very different cadence than the rest of the sessions that you're going to be going through the rest of the week. But we are accountable to you. We serve you. It's important for you to see that. I'm going to invite John up here. John's going to share with us the cadence, the messaging, the theme of our conference, and then Pam will send us into lunch.
All right. Grace fluency. That's what we called it. And probably for some of you, you're like, I have no idea what in the world you're talking about. I'll just show one slide. If you could just show my first slide there. Nope, not that one. That one. All right. Thank you. I just wanted you to see. I proudly can say I have been learning Spanish for 800 days. Yeah. Absolutely not. I just wanted you to see, okay? Because I wanted you to understand. I have been practicing Spanish for 800 days, and I am horrible at Spanish. Just so you know that. Horrible. Even though I know words, I can do the exercises. I have a badge that says 800 days. This was literally just on Saturday. Even though I have a badge to show, I'm still not fluent in Spanish. And I will tell you, I really think this is a metaphor that's very clear for us in terms of grace. My hope is as we go through this conference this week, you're going to be able to see and hear some things about grace that maybe as you hear from our speakers, we're going to be diving in and going through 2 Corinthians chapter 3, chapter 4. We got a great lineup of guys who are coming. They're going to do a great job. I just know it. And my hope is that you all are willing to stop long enough and say, maybe I can learn something this week. Maybe I can be encouraged by something this week. Maybe I need to adjust something that I say, something that I do. Maybe I need to adjust something this week. That's my desire because I have such a burden that we as a fellowship become fluent in grace. You can tell somebody who's fluent. You can. Somebody who's a hack like me trying to learn Spanish, it's obvious a mile away. But somebody who's fluent in a language, man, it just rolls off of them. I want to see grace, the Grace Gospel Fellowship, be at a place where grace just oozes out of us. It just flows off our tongues. It's the way we interact with our people. It's the way we treat ourselves. Okay? That's what I want to see. So, man, I had 30 minutes prepared. I just boiled it down really quick, okay? I'm excited about it. I really am. Come back this afternoon. We're going to hear from a lady by the name of Teresa Slabacorn. Awesome last name, one of the best ever. Slabacorn. It just does sound like something you want to eat. Teresa Slabacorn is going to be here this afternoon, 1:30 back in here. She's going to be talking about something called grace-based feedback. I will tell you, this is something, how do we give and how do we receive feedback? Okay? And how do we do it in a spirit of grace? Trust me, grace impacts how you give and you receive feedback, okay? Come back in here 1:30 this afternoon. Our main sessions start tonight, 7 or 6:45, and then we're doing, remember, tomorrow afternoon we got the donut thing, all that stuff. But our desire this week is to help you learn how to become fluent in the language of grace. So I'm going to turn it back over to Pam. Thank you guys for being here. And, I love all the young guys, too. I love it. I love seeing it. So, Pam, take us out of here.
Thank you. If you would stand with me. Are you ready to stand? Yes. The next thing on the agenda is lunch. It is at the Grace Christian University dining room. It's very easy to find. You need to just head out of the chapel. If you go down the hill past the gym, look for the flags, right? Look for the flags. That's the administrative building at Grace Christian University. You'll enter the double glass doors there, And to the back, to the right, is the dining room. There's plenty of people here who know how to get there, so I'm sure you'll be able to do that. As John mentioned, we need to be back in this room by 1:30. Be ready to listen again by 1:30. And so we're excited for that next session. So if you would join me in prayer for our lunch, then I will dismiss you. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you for the food we're about to eat, and we thank you for the hands involved in the preparation. Lord, you meet our physical needs of hunger and thirst. We thank you for that. I pray that the food will fuel us as we strive to honor you. And may the time of fellowship be energizing and encouraging. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Have a great lunch.